Welcome to episode 9 of 4-Shot Podcast, where we discuss all things HCS and some things Halo. I am your king for this evening, Phelan, and with me I have Prince Phade.
Did you call me Prince Phade?
Prince Phade.
I like it. Soon I'll be king, so watch out.
Yeah. I'll have to watch my back.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
I don't watch Game of Thrones, so...
Alright.
Missed that boat.
Yeah, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, I'll catch up eventually when I have time. So
Last episode was amazing, but
yeah, I saw Twitter after it went down, where whatever happened, I don't know, and it was just blowing up with how great it was. So
yeah, it was a good one. So, missing out, but what we're here to talk about is not Game of Thrones. It is Halo.
For sure. And to kick things off, normally we talk about rosters here, but it doesn't look like we got too much going on as far as rosters, because we're not in a transfer period, so not a lot of transfer news to talk about. But it looks like we do have Climax leaving Averse Esports.
Yeah, that just happened on Monday, I believe, right after, or maybe it was even Sunday night, right after the Cup finished. Apparently, from talking to one of the members on Averse, I was told that he was just leaving because he was kind of tired of Halo. He was just kind of burnt out from it. He's got a daughter and a wife and stuff, and just couldn't dedicate the time that he needed to, like especially on like the Sundays and things like that. So it was a peaceful leave. You know, it wasn't he got dropped or there was bad blood or anything. So that's good to hear.
And just for you guys who may not be aware, Averse is currently the 13th seeded team. So they are.
Yeah, and they made it through into the legendary bracket like 3 of the last 4 weeks, I think. And they haven't placed in the top 8 yet, but they're one of those teams that we wouldn't be surprised to see do it. And a little bit of intel we do know that I have or whatever is that. One player that they're looking at is Revamp to replace him, and he's a former player from the Nevo team, and then he also plays top 16 at Gamers for Giving. But they're not fully decided on who their fourth is going to be, but possibly Revamp. Phelan is a free agent, so free agent coach Phade right here. So, but yeah, Revamp potentially could be the fourth there, but we don't know for sure right now. But that's really the only roster change I think that there was.
So then,
obviously, yeah, none of the top 8.
With that in mind, let's just jump right into the amateur spotlight,
which coincidentally happens to be Averse. I got a chance to sit down and play some games with Gunplex and Monoxide, who are 2 of the members on that team, and talk to them just about their team and everything. And let me tell you, they're better than me quite a bit. I think
surprised.
I was holding them. Thank you. Yeah, no, I think I was holding them back. We were playing just in the playlist and stuff, and they're like high 30s, low 40s. So I wasn't doing so great. I was usually anywhere from neg like 5 to neg 10 every game, so I was doing well. We didn't. I think we only lost once. But we tied a lot of games, like bomb games. We tied.
Gotcha.
Which was probably my fault, but. Back to Averse. So they got together. Well, they were under a couple different names, which escape me right now. But they picked up Averse starting in season 2, and it's a organization that right now is providing them just kind of jerseys basically, and they're using that name. But their contract does allow them to get better representation based on how well they place. So if they place top 8, then they are going to be getting controllers and things like that. And then, potentially if they were to, go to season 2 finals or more, once Halo 5 starts, they plan to stay with it together for Halo 5, by the way. But then they have the options of getting travel cost reimbursed or like paid for and things like that, depending on how big Halo 5 gets and how well they do. So, it's a very reasonable start for them with Averse. So that's good to see that it's not. It doesn't seem like they're tied down, and it seems like they're very happy with what Averse is doing for them at this moment. So, but yeah, so that's how they got involved with Averse. And then so the team was Climax, Common, and Monoxide for a while, and then they just picked up Averse. Or they just picked up Gunplex 3 events ago, right before they started making the legendary bracket every time. So maybe he's one of the reasons why they're able to do that. But just in general, a couple of good guys that they're putting in a ton of time. Like I see, I actually know Gunplex a little bit because he's local to me. But they're online and playing hours every day, like multiple hours every day. So I'm not going to be surprised if they do big things. Their chances of them making the season 2 finals are pretty poor. They're going to have to get like a top probably three or four placing to make it, I think, because right now they're like 70 points behind the 8 seed. So they're going to have to outplace the 8 seeds pretty significantly at Indianapolis if they're going to try and make the season 2 finals. So it's unlikely. But if they do stick together for Halo 5, I see them having the potential to do some pretty good things there. You have any questions about them?
Let's see here. So, you said Averse. Does Averse have any other games that it supports, or is it just a Halo?
I believe they have a Call of Duty team as well,
Okay.
but I don't know much about it. It's a pretty small organization to my knowledge that they don't really have like a big team that they pay travel for right now and stuff, and so they're kind of getting started. But based on how their teams do, if they kind of broke out and everything, that's an option for them.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I think that was all I really was wondering.
Yeah, again, that's Gunplex, Monoxide, Climax, or formerly Climax, potentially Revamp, or another fourth, and then Common. And yeah, so I got a chance to play with Monoxide and Gunplex, and Monoxide, he's like a great personality. So I don't know if he streams actually, but if he does, like, you need to watch him because he could really like cast pretty well, I think, just based on the way I was talking with him. So
Nice.
yeah, I had a lot of fun playing with him. But so keep your eye on Averse.
Alrighty then. Moving into online Cup 1, or Cup 1. Wow, I need to update that. Online Cup 4 discussion on the amateur side. Once again, since I spend most of Sunday watching Halo all day, I try to take Saturdays to myself to go out and do things with the family and stuff. So I didn't get to watch any of the games, but of the 8 teams that moved on, we have Reality Check, Eternity Black, Averse, who we were just talking about, Element 6, which is nice to see them back up here again, Active Rush, Enemy, Nevo, and Vanquish. And the notables that didn't make it, there weren't really any that didn't make it per se, but there were 2 teams who just didn't play in this tournament. One being Noble, who I'm not sure, I couldn't really find any information as to why they didn't play. I'm not sure if they've made a roster move that's preventing them from playing because they don't want to lose their points. I'm not entirely sure. But then the other team that didn't play was Annex because they were banned for this week because of the whole roster issue that they had a couple weeks ago when playing Reality Check.
Yeah, I again, like you said, I didn't hear about Noble why they chose not to play. So try and find that out for next week. Maybe I'll tweet it out and everything too, if I do find out. But yeah, and then the annex banning. So pretty, I feel like a fairly predictable list of like teams that made it through.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't have any notable didn't make it of the teams that actually played.
The only one that let me pull it up again, but I believe it's they changed their name, so that's why it doesn't seem like a big deal or anything. But it was, I think it is it? No, where is it? It's the team that almost beat EG with Prawn and Tyler Rain and stuff.
Okay.
Oh, it's Bittersweet GG. They changed their name, and Eternity Black ended up beating them to make it in.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
I guess that would be why I didn't. When I
which
was
was the
looking at it.
Crossfade and Zersky and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one I noticed. Bittersweet, they came in and upset somebody last week to make it in, or potential upset, and then didn't make it this week after almost beating Evil Geniuses. So that might be the only thing that was potentially notable, but not a huge story or anything.
All right, then. So let's jump right into the legendary side of things, where there's actually fun games going on. Round of 16. Some of the notable games I had written down that I wanted to see were Reality Check versus Excellence again. Excellence pretty much just showed their dominance and 3-0'd them. That was,
Yeah,
yeah.
this is getting to a point where it's like it just seems like Reality Check has a limit of top 16, and
Yeah,
that
I saw
they don't. It doesn't matter what they do, they're not going to place top 8.
I saw a great post on the forums because of all the DNFs that happened this week,
I
which
know
we'll
what you're
touch
talking
later.
about.
And it was 1 through 8 listed as DNF, and then number 9 was Reality Check. And then the person's comment
Yeah.
was the only sure thing they know about next week. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, Excellence pretty much showed their dominance. There was an interesting thing that happened game 2. The whole Reality Check team, since they're all on one or in one house on one connection, got hit offline, and they were winning the Slayer game at the time, and basically tried to steal the game away from Excellence, and basically say, well, we were in the lead when it happened, so we automatically win. Which, according to the rules, technically is how it could go, because Reality Check had the choice to just take the win since they were technically in the lead when it happened, even though they're the ones who lost connection. But they ended up agreeing to play it out from where it was left off, and it was a 6-kill difference. Reality Check was up with like 2.5 minutes left. So they played 2.5 minutes from 0-0, and then obviously Excellence had to get at least 6 kills to tie it before the end, and they ended up getting like 20-5 or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Like, it was absolutely absurd. One of the players, I'm pretty sure, goosed in the second start of that game. It was Excellence was just completely in control and showed their dominance. And they, like I said, they ended up winning the whole series 3-0. And it wasn't really that competitive all that much.
Yeah, that's interesting that they decided to restart from like where it was, basically.
Yeah,
I mean, I know we
Excellence
kind of saw that in was it at Atlanta? There was one series that something similar happened. I think it was Denial versus. Who was it? It was because I remember APG going nuts in it. I think it was Denial and
I don't know. I'm too old to remember things.
I can't I can't remember who it was, but something similar happened. But that's with like referees watching and everything. So it's kind of surprising to me that they did something just kind of makeshift like that. But I mean, if both teams have agreed to it, then I don't see a problem with it.
Excellence was really fighting to play that game out because they knew they were going to win. They were just down at that point. So once Reality Check agreed to play it out, Reality Check wanted the stipulation that they would only play out the last 2.5 minutes or whatever it is. And Excellence was just like, well, technically, if we're going to restart it, you're supposed to restart the whole game and then just add on the score. But they weren't going to argue it because they didn't want to piss off Reality Check and then not end up getting the replay that they're looking for. So they just kind of let that go under the rug, and it ended up working out for them, and they ended up winning. So our second game here, I had Active Rush for CLG. This was Ogre 2's first week back from his vacation to his brother's wedding, and then Active Rush. It's after missing the legendary bracket last week. I wanted to see how this played out, and CLG ended up 3-0 in them in a pretty much dominant fashion. Active Rush didn't look like they stood a chance, is really what it came down to.
Yeah, and this is probably one of the opportunities that Active Rush had to really punch their way into the top 8 and potentially like get closer to that 8 seed. Because right now they're pretty far down, and it's gonna take almost a miracle for them to make it to the season 2 finals. Similar how we said like a verse, like what they need to do and things like that. So yeah, pretty tough for them. And I think this is the chance that they had with Ogre 2 being rusty and things like that for them to make a move, I guess, and get some additional points and close that gap. And they're not able to do it. So, um, you know, the active rush. I mean, a lot of the players in the roster. I don't want to say that they're underperforming or anything like that, but because they might not be underperforming, they might just be performing at their level because, you know, I feel like a lot of teams have gotten better, and the players on that were formerly Elevate plus like prototype and stuff haven't. It doesn't seem like they've really improved very much, and it could be just the team not working together because a lot of these players are very skilled, but it just doesn't seem like they're going anywhere.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is. I know last week after missing the legendary bracket, Prototype said that they were just not practicing as much, so maybe that has bled over to this week as well, and they're just not getting the practice in that they're looking for. And I don't know,
Yeah.
but yeah, if they want to have a chance of making the finals, they need to do a lot of work in the next couple weeks to get ready for Indy.
Yeah.
Third game
Yeah.
here.
Indy.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say Indy's gonna be telling for a lot of these teams. It could because there's so many more points available.
Yeah.
It's really the only time that a lot of the amateur teams, like the 12 9 to 12 type teams, are going to have a chance to make it to the season 2 finals. So, it'd be honestly, I want Excellence to make it to the season 2 finals with that 8 seed. But I think that there's options for good stories and everything. If one of those AM teams is able to have a nice run at Indy, place in the top, 6 probably, and maybe eke their way into the 8th seed. That's always a possibility. And so a run like that, like those dramatic losers bracket runs like Noble Black had at the season 1 finals, make for good viewing. So I wouldn't be opposed to that, but I do want Excellence to do well. So
Yeah, the way the points are spread out, the online cup allows teams to chip away at like maybe 1 to 2 spots ahead of them throughout the season.
yeah,
But the
the
LAN is
hardest
where
thing.
you're gonna actually be able to jump up. So for a team like Active Rush that's currently
14 or 15 or
13th
13,
in points,
14. Yeah.
the online cups might allow them to get maybe 11th, 10th at best if they perform really well. But if they want to be able to jump into that top 8, they're gonna have to do it at a LAN.
Yeah, and I think like the only problem I really have with I like having online cups. It gives something for meaning in between each of the events, and so I think that's a good thing. Obviously, we've had tremendous amount of problems with them, um, but that doesn't mean that online cups are inherently bad. The only thing that I really think is bad from these is that there's no losers bracket because it really makes like the the start of your seed like so important because if you're in the 13, 14 seed or 15, 16, you're going to be playing one of the top 4 teams first round every time. And so the chances of you trying to gain on those 7, 8 is so small. Whereas if you got to do a losers bracket, you could potentially make a run through the losers bracket and play the 7 and 8 seeds that you're trying to take the seed from. And maybe you are better than them. Like Active Rush, we don't know. Active Rush could be better than Excellence, but they'll never get a chance to show that. They'll never get a chance to play against Excellence because of the way the seeds in the brackets work out right now. If there's a losers bracket, they could play Excellence, they could beat Excellence, and really show that they are the 8th best team. But as it stands with the way that the no losers bracket and the way the points work and the brackets and seeding and everything like that, we're never going to find out.
Yeah.
Except for potentially at ND, but at that point it might not make a difference. Beating Excellence by 1 or 2 placings probably wouldn't be enough. They would have to beat them by 4 or 5, and the chances of that happening aren't great. But if they were to beat Excellence, every online cup by 1 or 2, then over the course of the season they would take that spot. So it's just like it's a little unfortunate they don't have those losers bracket to really differentiate where teams actually are.
Yeah. Moving into the third game I have highlighted here, Optic versus Element 6. And this is our first upset of the day with Element 6 beating Optic 3-1. I'm not, after the last couple of weeks, Optic has been looking good. They've been looking strong. They've had some good placings. And I don't know what was up with them. They just looked off in general. Not taking
Yeah,
anything
and
away from Element 6, but Optic just looked
no, but the
off.
thing about
And
Element Six is even they haven't made the legendary bracket for 2 or 3 weeks.
yeah,
We featured them in one of our first amateur spotlights, but and said that they had the potential, and I think we always knew that they did, but they hadn't made the legendary bracket for a little while, and so them making it was a big step, and then them beating Optic is a huge step. So that's really interesting to see. Did you watch this series?
yeah, I watched the whole series. It's one of the ones I had highlighted.
Okay,
Potentially knowing that
so
an upset could come, and I know Optic did mention that Assault potentially had a baseball game or something, and that even if they had won that round, they would have been done. They probably would have had to forfeit the next round because they wouldn't have had time or something along those lines. So I'm not sure if that had something to play into it, that they just weren't taking it as serious because they knew that whatever. But I know they were, at least Flamesword was pretty upset with the loss, because I
yeah,
guess being the captain of the team,
right,
he took
right.
that on his shoulders. But yeah, it
So
just looked like.
did you get to see the game, like the whole situation with the Maniac's internet and everything, and the replay and whatnot?
I'm not sure I saw necessarily what happened. I know that he, lost internet or whatever, and that they had
Yeah,
to
so
restart it, but I wasn't paying that close attention.
okay. So to my knowledge, basically, he lagged out, and so they were waiting for him to get back and everything. And I guess you know, um, Optic wanted to replay the game, and Element Six was going to be fine with that, but it ended up taking like Maniac over 40 minutes to try and get back online, or to get his. I don't think he got hit off actually. It was just like he lagged out, and then like the games was laggy. So they tried for 40 minutes. Is basically what I heard, to try and get that game going again, and they couldn't. And so eventually Element Six just said, "Hey, we're gonna take that first game," and then they were able to get it going. So I guess Element Six took one game by default in that series, but I don't think that should. And I get like they were willing to replay and stuff, and they waited 40 minutes. So I don't have a problem with them taking one game when, after 40 minutes, a lot of teams might take an entire series. So
Yeah, I think it's 15 minutes per game, so.
yeah, yeah. So they could have, I guess, technically and been within their rights to take an entire series, but they only took one game, and I don't think it matters too much because they did come out and win two more and actually take the series. So I don't think you can fault them or anything like that, and I don't see it as being unsportsmanlike or bad form. So I just want to point that out. That I don't think, for anybody that knew about that they did take a game in that regard. I don't think it's bad or poor form or anything.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. As unfortunate as it is that these players are either getting hit offline or having internet issues, rules are rules, and you got to
Yeah.
do something to keep it moving along, or these games are gonna
And
go till midnight, which this week basically did the way it
yeah,
played out.
and
But
I think Element Six was even winning in the game that it was like a flag bomb or shrine flag or shrine bomb. I can't remember. It was on shrine though,
it was
and I believe that
flag.
they were winning flag. I think that they were winning
They were
when he
winning,
lagged out or
but
something.
Optic was a
Had control of the map or something like
they
that. At the
they were
time.
running in the process of running a flag, and
Okay, yeah,
Optic said that they would have scored that flag, and that it should have been considered a tie, and that's why they wanted to replay.
yeah, yeah.
So
Which is fair enough and everything. And I guess, like I said, I guess Element Six was okay with that, but ultimately decided to take it after a significant amount of time. So I guess that's pretty much everything with that series. But I just wanted to talk about it a little bit.
yep. And then the other game I had listed that I wanted to watch was Vanquish versus Liquid, but unfortunately, one of the players on Vanquish had an emergency, and so the team had to forfeit last second. So the
Is it like a
game,
medical emergency? Like, is
I
he
have
okay?
no idea. That's all. Like I went into, I think it was Ninja's chat to try to find. Maybe it wasn't Ninja. I don't know. I went into someone's chat to try to find out what was going on, and all they said was that there was an emergency, and the player, had something else happen clearly, and the team had to forfeit. So I don't know if it was medical. I don't know if it was a family emergency.
Yeah.
I don't know, but whatever it was, it never happened, and so Liquid got a pass for the first round. Moving into the round of 8 then, first up here we have Liquid versus Denial. Denial ends up winning 3-1, which is seems to be pretty standard right now for where we expect Denial to be and where we expect Liquid to be as far as skill goes.
Yeah, I think I actually predicted that in my predictions last week that Liquid was going to win this matchup, and is a little bit out on a limb and everything. But yeah, I guess I'm a little surprised. Maybe not. I don't know. I guess I'm trying to back up my prediction of Liquid beating Denial there. Um, but yeah, I mean, you're probably right. It is probably about where Liquid's at, just a little bit behind Denial. 3-1. It's sometimes it's hard to tell, like when you see just a series score. Like it could be 3-0, and every game could be a 4-second hill game, a one kill Slayer game, a one flag, like a 30-minute one flag game that played 15 minutes of overtime or whatever. You know what I mean? It could be something like that, and it's still 3-0, and it looks terrible, but the games are real close. So it's hard to tell. I'm not saying I don't actually know the scores of the series. Unfortunately, I didn't get to watch it.
I don't think they were like they weren't
Yeah.
blowouts per se,
Right.
but they were
And you
definitely
wouldn't expect
one-sided enough.
blowouts,
They were
but
one-sided enough that Denial was clearly the better team.
exactly. And I think that's what we're gonna see is series that could potentially be close, but on a large sample size won't be. So if Denial plays Liquid 10 times, Liquid might win one series to Denial's 9, being real close, like 3-2s or something, and then some more 3-1s and a couple 3-0s or something like that. Is probably what we're gonna see. Maybe not 9 times out of 10. Maybe like 70% of the time they'd win, or 80% of the time they'd win. But I think that's probably about where we're at with Liquid, is that they're a team that can get those upsets, maybe 25% of the time, but the rest of the time they're gonna come just short of that.
Yeah. Moving on to the next game, we have Winterfox versus CLG. Winterfox ends up winning 3-1 over CLG, and this is about what I was expecting with Ogre 2 recently returning. Winterfox you would guess would be the better team, and they pretty much showed that they were as of right now. With Ogre 2 back now, hopefully CLG can get some practice in and improve on that. But right now, like I said, that's about what I was expecting.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't even know if Ogre 2 just returning matters. At this point, I just think Winterfox is better than CLG, and I think CLG is really just that 5th, 6th place team. We kind of like maybe wrote it off after the first LAN, but that could potentially just be what this squad is. And it's hard to imagine a little bit that they go from being 2nd place all last year with Heinz to a 6th place team with Cloud, because I don't think Cloud is like inherently like worse than Heinz, or like significantly worse or anything like that. But I think the significant thing is the time. I feel like they were practicing a lot more in season 1, and part of it's Ogre 2 being gone, but even before then, I didn't really see them practicing. I mean, Snakebite isn't streaming anymore. At least I never see him online streaming. He talked about getting back into it and streaming some more, but I don't see it. I don't know if Royal 2 streamed much ever, but yeah. Cloud, I know he streamed a little bit, but not anytime recently that I've seen. So, they could be practicing without streaming, but I doubt it. I think that honestly, I think this roster is just kind of done with Master Chief Collection, and potentially just like, grinding it out a little bit until Halo 5. And I know the last time I talked to Snakebite, he had mentioned actually moving into the CLG house out here in California, in the LA area. So I doubt he's done with the game or anything, but I don't know. I mean, there's been a lot of talk on the forums recently, like what the problem is with CLG, and a lot of people like to say it's Snakebite and Royal 2's fault because they're negative or whatever. And we kind of talked about this a little bit, that I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't think Snakebite's a negative person, from knowing him in person and everything, and then watching. You have to understand like what his personality is, and I don't think it's bitching. He's not bitching at his teammates in game or anything. Excuse my language. I probably shouldn't be saying that, even though it's not like a super terrible word or anything. But I don't think he's being mean to his teammates or putting down his teammates or not taking responsibility as a whole. I think it's just how we talked about some teams like EG and stuff, they hash out their stuff after the game, which is probably a better route to go. But what Snakebite communicated to me is that their team is okay with it, and that's how they want to function. Is that they call out mistakes as they happen, so that it's in their minds that they're getting over it. And as long as players are getting over it and not taking like those things personally, then there's no problem with that. Um, the other complaints that people are having is that, or reasons they say Royal 2 and Snakebait are the problems, is that they're baiting their teammates and they're being selfish players, um, which could, and that there's no natural like objective players on that team, which could potentially be the problem. Not saying that they're being selfish intentionally or anything, but that just the way that this roster is constructed, the players that are on it, the way that they play and the way that's natural to them is making their team function worse than you would assume, like looking at it on paper. They're just not functioning together very well because their play styles don't complement each other. And that doesn't mean, oh, objective player, oh, Slayer player. It doesn't work like that. There's Slayer players and objective players that can not work together at all. It just depends. And potentially that might just be it. And maybe Heinz was the glue to that a little bit, is his play style. And I think this is true about Heinz. Players that I think it's kind of true about RyaNoob and Heinz together, I think are very what's the right word? Malleable, I guess, maybe, or fluid. Like they're able to do a lot of different things and adjust the way that they're playing. And so I think they're like a teammate that works with anybody. And you can kind of see that with Heinz. Like he's finished second at like every event ever, basically. I mean, obviously he's won some events too and everything. But he's just a player that elevates teammates and always, he might not always have the best stats or whatever, but I think that he just makes teams work. And so that's something I think that they're missing, is just their play styles together don't make each other work very well. And so that's my personal philosophy on why CLG isn't working. And I think they truly are just like the fifth or sixth best team right now.
Yeah.
Potentially worse with Liquid. Liquid might be better, but just the way the brackets are, they haven't played each other, so hard to say.
Yeah, I think the big thing, which you mentioned first, is just the lack of practice and how I would say more than just CLG have seemed to have just kind of thrown MCC away
Yeah.
for now and are waiting for Halo 5. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate, but it kind of seems to be the state of the industry at the moment.
And maybe they'll set up some sort of LAN or something. I doubt it, but maybe they'll set up a LAN before the season 2 finals or something, and get a ton of practice in, and prove everyone wrong that they still have it and this roster does work or whatever. But my guess is it won't happen. Like that won't happen. My guess is they'll put a little bit more practice in, but so will everybody else, and they'll end up finishing about fifth or sixth.
Yeah. Moving on, then, we have EG versus Excellence. EG ends up winning the series 3-0, but, well, I wouldn't say that all of the games were close, but 2 of the 3 were close. The first one was Warlock Bomb, and it was, I think, a 5-0 or 5-1 blowout. But, yeah, it's kind of what we've come to expect when these two teams play each other. Excellence is showing their strength and doing their best that they can, but EG's just too much of a powerhouse for them to overcome at this point.
Yeah, EG's just tremendous to me. I think they're the closest thing to a dynasty that we have right now. And they really, not necessarily this roster in general, but Roybox and Snipe Down, because they've been together for a while. And I know they broke up a little for a bit, but they played together on Instinct and everything. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure they did. I might sound like a total fool if they didn't, but I'm pretty sure they did at one point. And so, I think this EG/Instinct, really just the core of Roybox, are solidifying themselves as the best pairing in Halo, and this team is just functioning almost flawlessly together, and really I think propelling them above a lot of teams. Denial I think is right there, and I'm not saying they're unbeatable or anything. We've had this discussion before. They're definitely not unbeatable, but they're very, very good, and I don't really see them having flaws, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask anyone...
Oh.
If you ask
The
anyone
dog
right
is
now,
upset at the mailman, so give
oh
it just
man,
1 sec.
okay.
Sona, can you calm down? No, you cannot. Okay. How about you come here? Come here. See, nothing bad. Do you want to go
So
on the TV screen?
if you ask anyone right now who they would say the best player in MCC or Halo at this moment, I would say you're probably gonna get a good chunk of Roy and you're gonna get a good chunk of Snipe Down. And I would kind of agree that between the two of them, one of them is clearly probably the
Yeah,
best
and
player at this moment. And to have
honestly,
both on the same team, just kind of states how well
yeah.
the team is working together.
And me personally, my vote isn't for one of them. Um, and slightly surprisingly, it's actually Lunchbox. He doesn't get a lot of glory on um, EG or ever really. It's always I feel like he's always been a little overshadowed by Roy. But I think kind of what I was talking about with Hines. I think he's one of those players that really makes teams work, and he just brings a team to the next level based on the type of things he does. And it's just kind of like making openings for Roy and Snipe Down and Lethal to shine and stuff like that. So, but he's also has those huge games where he goes off himself. So that's my personal pick, or maybe not. I guess you asked for best player. I'd probably pick Roy or Snipe Down for best player, but most important player or most valuable player, I'm gonna pick Lunchbox.
Yeah, I was thinking after the Indie Land, maybe one of our questions of the week will be just kind of like I guess, mid-season-ish, like MVP type.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll go through
Yeah.
like who
Right, I think
we'll do
right
some,
after
like,
Indianapolis we do that.
we'll do some like mid-season awards, so to speak, and
All right.
talk about things.
Yeah.
So our last game then of the round of 8, we have Cloud9 versus Element 6. I was excited to see how Element 6 was going to pair up now that they're playing another top team, and Cloud9 pretty much just destroyed them, and that was the end of that. Like, none of the games were close. Cloud9 showed their dominance, and Element 6
and I think
was eliminated.
Yeah, it wasn't close. And that's not. I mean, that just shows that there is a gap. We talk about how it's close, and these amateur teams can upset pro teams, and they can, but there is a significant gap, and they're not going to do it consistently. A lot of these amateur teams, some may, but Element 6 I think is one of those. They are a top 16 team in my opinion, but they're not a top 8 team, and they won't be a top 8 team. As much as I like them, they're not going to right now. At least maybe Halo 5 changes. They're like better at that game or whatever, and they put so much time in. Maybe, but right now they're not a top 8 team, and so yeah, they upset a top 8 team, and that can happen. But it's not going to happen frequently. And to me, the chances of them doing it twice in a row, like in the same event, is almost none. So I wasn't expecting them to beat Cloud9 here, and I wouldn't expect them to get top 4 in one of these events. I wouldn't be shocked if they place top 8 again, but I think that that's also probably not that likely, depending on who they play. But yeah, that's my opinion on it. Is basically they're just a team that that 10% or 20% chance to upset a team, and they took their opportunity with Optic not playing well. And were able to do that, but they're probably not going to do that very often.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing here with Element 6 or any of these amateur teams, it's not about them stepping up and beating these top teams. It's more of these top teams not playing well and then letting Element 6
And it's almost a
get through.
combination of both. Like they have to step up, and the pro team has to not play well.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like that small percentage chance where it can happen. And there's always times that one of these teams can truly step up and maybe a player makes a great play and then it allows their team to take control of a map, because even these amateur teams, if they get like serious control of a map, they can hold it down and win a game from there. So that's an option for them, but it takes something like truly special, I think, to be able to do that, like a really special play. And that's not going to happen frequently. No. So, yeah, it's just they're not as good as Cloud9 is what it comes down to.
For sure. So then, moving into the semifinals here, we'll start with EG versus C9. Just as easily as C9 3-0'd Element 6, EG 3-0 C9 pretty much in a dominant fashion, and none of the games were close.
Yeah, I don't even know how to. I guess I feel like I just keep repeating myself about EG. They're just like, they don't really have flaws. So it almost like how we were saying, Element Six has to play well, and and Cloud9 would have to play bad. It's not to the same extreme. Like Cloud9 can beat EG easier than Element Six is going to beat Cloud9, but there's still a gap there because EG is so good and has such good teamwork and chemistry and talented players. So. I don't know. I just don't see very many teams being able to beat EG ever. But I mean, obviously they can. But I don't know. I don't know what else to say, basically.
Yeah, like I said, there's not much to say. EG's awesome, and that's pretty much it. So then, let's move into the other game that never really happened, or kind of happened a bunch. Denial versus Winterfox. So, before the series ever really got started, when they were first joining up in each other's lobbies, someone on RyaNoob's friends list got into the party, and then that person then invited another person who is known for hitting people offline. So by being able to join in that party, he got like 6 or 7 of the players' IPs, and was then able to proceed to hit players from both Denial and Winterfox off one by one as soon as more or less as soon as the game started. I think they played Shrine Flag. Oh man, I don't even know. I think they probably had 7 times before all was said and done, and never got through it once. Some of the games, Denial had 1 flag. It was up 1-0. Some of the games, Winterfox was up 1-0. None of them ever really got to a resolution. They were all, toss-ups. They were all close when it happened. So
yeah,
nothing ended up happening with the series, and I kind of sat around for hours waiting for something to happen. And I was watching Nate's stream because it was his birthday.
how the native? Can we talk about the native dance at some point?
Yeah, we could talk about the native dance. So yeah, I just kind of sat around watching it, and it ended up hitting. I think it was like 11 o'clock Eastern time, and I was just like, I have to go to bed. I gotta work in the morning. So I just let it go, and I figured I would have to watch some VODs to catch up. And then it turns out, like 15 minutes after that, the ruling finally came in, and since I think what it comes down to is since Winterfox was kind of a person on Winterfox was the cause of the issue, Winterfox ends up forfeiting this series to Denial, putting them in the finals. And because it already had taken too long at that point, Denial had agreed to forfeit to EG, and then because Winterfox forfeited their first game and their fourth placing match, they forfeit to C9. So there's a bunch of forfeiting that goes on, but when it's all said and done, EG ends up getting first, Denial gets second, C9 third, Winterfox fourth, and then 5th, 6th was Excellence and Liquid, and the 7th, 8th was CLG and Element 6.
And then, yeah, I believe Excellence played against Element 6 in the console, and Liquid played CLG. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so. And I think the Excellence Element 6 was a 3-0, which just, again, shows that it's going to be tough for Element 6 to be able to beat the top 8 teams. But in this case, they beat Optic and had that good placing. But not likely to happen frequently. And then Liquid beating CLG, and this kind of like shows the same thing. Like if there's a bigger losers bracket, could potentially separate Liquid in the placings from CLG. Like they could overtake them more frequently, or potentially like Excellence could outplay CLG and take their seed. We're seeing that again. CLG just not up to it, is what it seems like right now.
Yeah. So that is pretty much the end of Online Cup 4. Like I said, it was kind of an unfortunate ending, but because of how late it was taken to get things done, that was the end of that. So as far as standings go, Evil Geniuses is still first with 1125, Denial second with 800, Winterfox third with 45, Cloud9 in fourth with 470, Optic Halo in fifth with 240, CLG in 6th with 225, Liquid in 7th with 150, Excellence in 8th with 140. And then going down the list, Noble, who didn't play, still holds on to 9th. Reality Check 10th. Element 6 jumped up to 11th with their impressive placing. Active Rush is in 13th. And Annex is down in 15th with their ban for the week.
Yeah. And Annex kind of fallen off. They're one of those teams, I think they started after Atlanta, were like the 9 seed or 8 seed or even. And we're consistently, getting in the top 16, and I think they had one top 8 and stuff. So I thought that they would be making more of a challenge, but kind of skirting the rules. I guess cheating is the appropriate word, and they're paying for it, and they're not going to make the season 2 finals.
Yeah. So then, as far as predictions go, it looks like I end up winning. Technically,
this is kind of one of those.
But I would agree
like the
to
first
let this
week
be
how
a
I
wash.
said I won.
I would say we washed the week because of all the forfeits. I would say no one wins this week, and we just let it go and we continue into next week, because it is kind of unfair to say I won based off of 2 or 3 forfeits. So
yeah. Well, so if people don't remember, basically what happened is, Phelan predicted EG, Denial, and Optic in the top 3. I picked EG, Winterfox, and Liquid in the top 3. So technically, you were right with the Denial pick there for second, but it came down to Denial versus Winterfox, or in that matchup or whatever. And if Winterfox would have won, I would have won, and you would have lost. So basically, however they ended up deciding who won that forfeit battle is who won the prediction. So yeah, it's hard to say really, and I'm okay with a wash because it helps me, but I know you need some wins here, so I'm okay with giving you one as well.
Nah, I'm good. We'll let it go.
All right.
So moving in then, predictions for this week. Let's see here. Let me look at the top 8. I'm gonna go EG, Denial 1-2 again, and then for 3, I will go with Cloud9. I'll take out Optic and put
basically
in Cloud9.
a repeat of what happened this week, kind of.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with this week's top 3 to be the same for next week.
All right. Yeah, it's getting to where top 3 is almost predictable. It seems like even. So I'm gonna go EG again. I just think they're better. And we actually had a question in the chat that we can talk about a little bit. Yeah. So I'll go EG first, and then that Denial Winterfox is really turning into a rivalry, which we'll talk about a little bit too. So you picked Denial. I'll go Winterfox. No, I'll go Winterfox then. I'm gonna stick with my predictions actually. Just EG, Winterfox, Liquid. I'm doing it. Liquid's gonna beat Denial. Probably not, but I'm gonna pick that.
All right. And then we'll have to work on getting a guest prediction for the week. Do you want to talk about the question in chat now, or do we want to do it later?
What's that?
Do we want to talk about the question in chat now, or do we want to do it later?
Let's just talk about it right now.
Okay.
So the question in chat is, how do we compare EG to the 2006 Final Boss? And I don't know, maybe 2006 Final Boss isn't the right choice. Maybe 2007 is, because I think EG is far and away better than 2006. 2006 didn't even win the national championships. That's when Carbon overtook them and won the last 3 events of the season. So I find it hard to say that Final Boss is even the best Final Boss. I would say that with Strong Side, instead of Saiyan, they were better. So it's Ogre 1, Ogre 2, Walshy, and Strong Side, or Saiyan, depending on what year we're talking about. 06 Saiyan, 07 Strong Side. And the 07 team won the national championships without dropping a single game. They went 3-0 in every single game or series that event. So that was extremely impressive. And I think, are you okay with talking about 07? Because I think that's a little bit more appropriate.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Honestly, I mean, that team was dominant at the time, but I think this EG team is better. I think if they were to play, like, or whatever, I think that EG would probably win. Um, I don't know. I don't know though. That team was really really strong. They're pretty comparable, but my vote's for EG. I think this EG team could potentially be one of the better squads of all time. I know that's a stretch to say, especially with Team 3D and STK dominating
That's all
2005
just final
series.
boss.
Yeah, that's
It's the
final boss
same
basically,
team,
like
same core three
dominating.
players.
Yeah, 2005, like they absolutely wrecked the 2005 season. So it's hard to say that EG's better than them, but I also think that there's not necessarily more competition but there is more competition. Like I feel like during that time, like 2005, when in 6-7, when Final Boss was so dominant, it wasn't like there was two or three teams that were like at the top, and I feel like now there's 8 teams that are at the top, or 6 or 7, that are at the top. So I think
See,
like right
that's
now,
where I kind of disagree. Where like when I'm trying to think about who's the better team here, I instinctively would say EG, but I'm not sure if that's just because EG is actually that good or there's just not that many good teams around to compete.
okay,
Back in the 2007, there were so many, like there may not have been as many teams deep wise, but the top 3 or 4 were just all such strong teams that we
but
don't
even then,
really
like
see
who
that
who are the
now.
3 and 4? Who are the 3, 4, 5, and 6? Like then,
Back in 2007,
yeah, can you really remember them?
I know Straight Rippin' was third.
Yeah.
Um, and then fourth, yeah, I'm not sure off the top of my head.
And that's kind of like
Fourth would have been.
why I think EG is probably better, is because those teams kind of got forgotten. They weren't even challenging. It seems like, there was like in 2006 there was like Exit Wounds, and then there was like 5K in 2007 and stuff, which was Roy and Lunchbox actually. And there was the Agency and stuff with Fear Itself, Macchio, or not Fear Itself, but Victory X and Macchio and stuff. Um, but and they were there. They were top teams also. But I think part of the reason why we think like EG right now they're not getting that much competition and the other teams is because they're that good. I think that like Winterfox and Cloud9 and Optic even and CLG, like the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams now, we're better than the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams then, is I guess what I think. They might not be. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just, biased to the present, but that's probably what I would argue. But I could be wrong. Honestly, I think that the teams in 2000, like the 2009, not the national champion, believe the hype, but like in 2009, 2008, Straight Rippin' team might be one of the best teams also. But that's because that was like the pinnacle of competition. Like 2008, 9, 10 was like when Halo was at its strongest, I feel like. So like the best teams then, like the Triggers Down, the Straight Rippin' in 2008, the Instinct, the Status Quo in 2010. Although I don't think the Status Quo team is close to being in a conversation for the best of all time. But
Yeah,
those teams are, I think those teams are probably when it was the strongest overall. But for dominance, obviously the longevity of Final Boss takes, they get the check mark there or whatever. But I just think that the teams that EG's beating now were better than the teams that Final Boss is beating then, I guess is my argument.
see, I don't know.
Yeah, and
And
I
it
could
could
I could
be
be
just
I
that
could be wrong.
was just more, I don't know, of a, not as knowledgeable back in 2007, and I was more of a fanboy back then. But I feel like the competition overall was better than what it is now. At least as
Yeah,
far
and
as
I'm not
who they're
gonna
going
say
against.
you're wrong. I definitely won't say you're wrong because I could be wrong very easily. So yeah. So that was the question from the Twitch chat for the week, I guess. Community news, a couple things. We had well on Podtacular, another Halo. That's more like just general Halo podcast. And I actually don't. I used to listen to it like years and years ago. Like I think like '06, I was listening to that. So I don't even know honestly what all they talk about now. It might be just gaming now, in general. But on that podcast, they had Dan Ayub, I don't know how to say his last name, Ayub, I think, came out and said that they're testing Relic or Remnant, the new map that released or whatever, for HCS, and that quote what he was are excited about it being coming to ECS and that it's good for esports, which I feel like based on the reaction from a lot of pros is just a straight up lie. And I think that we should have been able to see that that's not actually the case. The map is way too big for esports.
Yeah, there's no way.
It's a big for those that don't know. It's a Halo 2 map. That's it's basically like on an island, and in the middle of the island is this giant tower, which is the base, and then it's like and that's like a circle in the middle of the base, and then all around it is just beach with like rocks scattered and a couple hills and stuff. And it's huge. It's a big team battle map. It's for 8v8. And it's so big that if they tried to play 4v4 on it, it would be like Slayer on it would just be hide and seek. Like I think the chances of a game going 50 kills would be like so small in that map. It would probably be about with the way that Slayers happen and stuff and on a map like that, they're not going to people aren't just going to run out into the open because it's like a 100-yard sprint to try and get anywhere. You'd probably be looking at like 20 kill games. Like honestly,
yeah, and like
it's not an HCS game type.
They would have
it's not
to,
bad, but
I mean, if they were honestly considering it, they would have to do one bomb or one flag. But at that point,
even then
it'd be the end in ties, and like
it'd be 0-0 every time. No one would ever cap. I feel like because the map's too big, and the defensive team has too much of an advantage. Where even if the offensive team. Not even that. Even if the offensive team had all the power weapons, got 4 down, they still have to run like across an entire map. They have to run a space that's bigger than wall to wall of Sanctuary right now just to get to the base. By that time, an entire team, the entire team that like say they had a sniper, Mikwin just went crazy, sniped 4 people, and now Denal's trying to get to the base. They're not even going to get there before they all spawn again. So they're going to have to get 4 down again. And if anybody dies, they spawn all the way back and have to make the giant run. The offensive team has to try and run, a mile again to try and get there. It's just it's too big.
Yeah, there's like I said, there's zero chance of that ever becoming an HCS thing. And their only possible scenario would have to be a 1 bomb or 1 flag, and maybe they could add some portals or something to try to help.
Yeah, the only other thing is that they like
around.
Walled off the map, like somehow used Forge to like cut the map in half, basically. But even then, it's not designed very well for a competitive game.
Like,
so it's
how would you even handle that in a custom game format with like where it's a 1 round type of thing where they keep switching sides? Like in a Counter-Strike type of thing. They would just have to have the score go up to ridiculous numbers to try to break.
Yeah, well, you see in Counter-Strike, I think you play 24 rounds or something like that.
30.
Like 12, 30? Is it 30?
First to 15.
Okay, first 15. See, I don't even play Counter-Strike.
Well, not even first to 15, because it can end 15-15 and then go to overtime. So technically first to 16.
Okay, yeah. So it's just like, I don't know how you would do it. And it wouldn't work because, like, I think generally, like in Halo, the one-sided game types are about 5 minutes, I think, per round. And if you're gonna do that, you're gonna have to have at least probably 3 rounds for each team at the very minimum. So that's 30 minutes alone. Plus, like 3 is probably not even enough to really differentiate ever. So you're looking at like probably like first to 5 or something crazy, and it just can't work, I don't think, for a tournament with like time limits and stuff.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I just don't see how it would work, I should say.
Yeah, and we just got a question in chat from Well Done Steak, and he said, would one-sided objective games work on any of the maps, even the current ones that are HCS? And it's kind of what we just mentioned. I don't know how they would. Each round would have to be 2 minutes at most.
Yeah, I think that they could. A one-sided game can work, but like you said, it has to be very short.
They would basically have to turn Halo into Counter-Strike through the custom games, and how Counter-Strike does their natural bomb type objective thing. And
well, so the thing like with they have one life, so it's a little bit different. You can get the kills, like, once you kill them, then you can start pushing for the objective. Where in Halo, it's a little bit different because you have to continuously kill someone to score an
Yeah.
objective. And with one flag or one bomb or anything, I don't see it working very well. I know that there's like a lot of people want it to. Like there was talk on the forums, like when the people were discussing this, it got into one flags and saying that they want to bring it back. Well done, Steak mentioned Shrine, but Shrine wouldn't work. I think you have to have an asymmetrical map. You can't have a symmetrical to have a one flag because inherently, I think one team has to be at an advantage for a one flag to work or a one sided to work. And finding the right balance, like, is, I guess, difficult right there. And I don't think the maps that we have would work. I guess maybe Lockdown is asymmetrical, and I know that in Halo 2, people played one flag on it where the flag spawned at like the bottom of elbow, and you had to bring it back to library,
BR.
which wouldn't be like ridiculous. I don't think. I think that could potentially be something that happened, but I just, in general, I think with the way Halo works and plays, that one flags only work in big team. You have to have vehicles, I feel like, and I'm not a big fan of vehicles, actually, but I think you have to have vehicles for a one flag to work.
I don't know. I would like to see maybe
So,
them
I don't
try
know.
to
Yeah.
set something up.
Not for... I would prefer an asymmetrical game type, like... I didn't play much of Halo 4, so I apologize, but I believe Extraction was a one-sided.
I was not a Halo 4 person.
Okay, so
I
I
played
believe...
for 2
Okay,
weeks and I
I could be very wrong. I could be very wrong, but I think it was one-sided, and everyone loves this game type. And if it's what it is, what I think it is, then I think it's probably a pretty decent one, game type. And it's oh,
Yeah, I mean, what I would like to
sorry,
see while you're looking
I was just trying to look it up, but
Okay.
basically, it's like there's like data nodes that appear around the map, and one team's defending them, and one team's trying to take them. And it's kind of like a territory. You have to take it for a certain amount of time while the other team defends. So it's almost like a one-sided hill game is the way that I understood it. I wouldn't even quote me on this. I'm probably wrong about it. But if that's the case, I think that's something that's totally doable. A one-sided hill game, like if we took Lockdown Hill and just looked at it, where one team has to get in the hill and control it for a certain amount of time, and once they control it for like 5 seconds or something, or 10 seconds, they take it. 10 total seconds, so it can be over multiple lives. Like you could lemming your way through it if you want, and then the score is based on how many points your team gets. So if you played for like, to have a 15-minute game, you played for 7.5 minutes. Each team gets one go, and when you capture one, the point now appears somewhere else on the map. And once you get that, it appears somewhere else. And so it's whatever team can capture the most of them in a specified amount of time. And in that way, it's a one-sided where one team's attacking, one's defending, and you each get a shot. But I think there's going to be a lot more variability in score. It's not just, it's going to be 1-1 or 1-0 or anything like that. And I think that's the type of game type that you need for Halo. Something where you're going to be able to capture it every time. You're going to get at least one. You know what I mean? Like, you can always get in the hill for 10 seconds, generally. Yeah. And so I think that that's the type of game type you need for Halo to work in a one-sided.
Yeah.
And it's just, we don't have that right now.
Yeah,
so.
I would like to see them maybe try to set up something similar to how Counter-Strike is and have some pro teams just try it out and see how it plays out.
I mean, I think that's basically Breakout for Halo 5.
Yeah.
If they change the maps a little bit, that's more like extreme paintball is what Breakout is. But
yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, as of right now, I don't see any way that a one-sided thing is gonna work. But that's not saying that in the future they might not figure something out.
Yeah, and then the other community thing, I guess we talked about that for a little while, but the EG Teamtage, the Evil Geniuses montage that got put out. Did you watch it?
Yeah, I watched it.
What'd you think?
It was, I don't know, it was okay. It seemed a little lacking in clips. kind of like.
Like just there wasn't very many. Like
Yeah,
for
it
an
seemed like
entire
there was
team, you might
more
expect more.
editing. There's a lot of editing that kind of extended things out and made them longer than they were. And I remember like back in the whole Halo 2 and Halo 3 like montage days, like there would just be clip after clip after clip after clip, and it's just this is like here's a really long clip of like 10 to 15 seconds, and it's just like when it was all said and done, I'm not sure I saw more than like 15 actual clips in the 5 minute period.
I actually agree with you, and I posted, and some people agreed, some didn't, but I'm a big fan of not very much editing, and so in this Teamtage, I'm going to caveat saying the clips in this video were absolutely ridiculous. If you
Agreed.
haven't seen it, go watch it because EG the plays that they make are just insane. So you have to go watch it and really just appreciate how good these players are. But as far as the actual montage from like a cinematic and like art type of like perspective or whatever, I prefer less editing. In the montage, they do a lot of like 3D like. So for instance, there was one play where like I think it was snipe down or I don't know who it was, but they're sniping top blue on lockdown and they get 2 kills and then it cuts to like out of his viewpoint to like the opposing team and shows them coming up the lift and then flips back to snipe down and shows him sniping him as they come out of the lift. And to me that's just totally unnecessary. I don't see the need to like watch them come up the lift or anything or like see those third person perspectives of like what the other team's doing. I don't think it adds anything to the clip. It actually just makes the clip seem worse to me personally. And so I'm a big fan of when the main editing is just syncing the play to music.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I appreciate is like when it feels like the music was almost designed for the gameplay, and that's what really sets a montage apart for me. And I don't feel like this one did that, but that doesn't mean that the montage wasn't good, because it was a pretty good one, and they did do that a little bit with the music, but. Like you were just kind of saying, it didn't seem like there was very many clips, and half the time was just watching random 3D, like zoom out, whatever stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do like crazy editing, I like it when they would do something awesome in the beginning, like is like an intro type of thing, and then just
Yeah,
let the clips
exactly.
play out.
Almost like the promo, and then you get into the clips because it's supposed to be just a highlight of plays. That's all it is like a highlight reel in football or whatever. You don't need to have all these like crazy things, in my opinion. And to me, like the perfect montage is just one that has sick gameplay that's probably about 5 minutes long, and you can get a lot of clips in 5 minutes without a ton of editing. So you have all these clips that are synced to a song basically, where, if a song speed is fast at a part, you speed up the gameplay just a little bit, So it might not be completely natural, but you can see the gameplay and it matches the song a little bit, or you slow down or pause a little bit in a gameplay and stuff. So that's what I like.
I think a good, the first one that comes to my mind was Walsh's Halo 2 montage, where he had that sick intro that was all like 3D done. Like I'm pretty sure it had to be through ARC. I'm pretty sure it wasn't modded or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was just straight up 3D drawn. And he had like a really cool like 30-second intro that was crazy editing, and then he got into some awesome gameplay.
Yeah, and it was just like great gameplay.
Yeah.
And my favorite is one called they called it a mini taj because it was only like 3 minutes, but it's Foley, and it's called Good Morning, his Halo 3 mini taj by Foley. And that's been my favorite just because of the way that the music sings. The clips are sick, but they're not the same level as some of the pros. But it just felt like it was so smooth and just like enjoyable to watch to me. So that's my favorite. But
all right,
we'll link both of those actually in the view.
Yeah.
The notes or whatever, so you guys can watch those if you want.
All right, moving on then. Do you want to talk about Mikwin versus RyaNoob quick? I missed it, so
yeah, we can talk about it real quick.
I'll let you cover it.
I don't want to get into this too much. It's just a lot of drama, but really what's happening is. We mentioned it like someone on RyaNoob's friends list got into the party and then invited somebody and kicked people, and it was basically a fight over whose fault it was, which turned into a why RyaNoob got kicked off denial. And it was drama between Mikwin and RyaNoob, where RyaNoob was saying apparently in season 1 saying that he didn't think denial was as good as like EG, and he said this at the tournament, and he admitted to being wrong about saying this type of thing, like that you're not supposed to do it. but he didn't. I guess he didn't realize that that was something that he shouldn't be doing at the time, which is a little strange to me. I feel like you should always like project. You may not have it, but project confidence to your teammates rather than like negativity, which is kind of what he did. I get people make mistakes and stuff, but anyway, Mikwin was pissed about that and doesn't like RyaNoob anymore and would never team with him. Basically, is what he said. And then RyaNoob's like, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like be negative or whatever, and I'm sorry you hate me, but I don't like you either now because you're mean to me now." It's basically what happened, in my opinion, is like what they said. So a little bit of drama there, and they're fighting over whose fault it was that they got kicked out of the, or like why they got hit offline and stuff. Ryan was like, "Oh, it's your fault because you had it on, you didn't have it on invite only at first, and so one of my friends joined." And Mikwin's like, "Well, you shouldn't have people that are joining or what." I don't know. Bottom line, there's a rivalry brewing between Winterfox and Denial, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out because they are the 2 and 3 seeds, and they're going to match each other in every online cup, barring an upset, and at the event. So I look forward to these games because it's nice to have a rivalry again. And I think the last true like real rivalry I feel like was like between, oh, I don't know, Straight Rippin' and Triggers Down. Like I feel like they had a pretty good one back in like
Oh, that
09
was a
and
great
stuff.
rivalry.
Yeah,
T2 and SK, man, they hated each other.
yeah. Well, and like everyone kind of hated Hysteria, so there
Yeah.
was like that, and I don't know, that was just a good rivalry, and but it was like healthy and stuff. So I hope this turns into like a healthy rivalry. Um, and but there is, so keep an eye on those teams because they're gonna have some good series. That's probably my one to watch from now on.
All right, then we'll move into tip trick of the week. We're gonna go over breaking out of bottom blue again, version 2. But this time Phade has a versus opinion on it, so I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, so I said I got to sit down with a verse, and I we had just talked about this, and we were so on the podcast. So I asked them, I was like, so what is your guys like opinion on breaking out of bottom blue? And I just figured that'd be a good way to find out a pro's opinion as opposed to a podcaster's ex-coach and a scrub and Phelan. But um, basically they were similar to what we said, and really they said like you have to get all 4 together first. You can't push out solo, which we kind of said. And then they said the key is snipe tower. You have to get snipe tower back. And so what they said the best way to do it is not through elbow, which is kind of what we thought because it's too open. And they said it's through bottom mid. So you're gonna send. They said like you're gonna try and back down the person in window, and then 2 to even 3 guys going bottom mid, and all of them immediately just throwing nades at back open ramp to try and like hit anybody that's there and push them back, which is similar to what we said. But the big difference between what we said and what they said is the elbow to bottom mid. They said it's all through bottom mid. You're gonna have to almost. So they said push 3 bottom mid, and then one person can maybe hang back just a little bit and then go elbow. Or if it's kind of they get through and it's clear or whatever, then all 3 go bottom mid and they push snipe, and you just try and overpower snipe and get back snipe. So that way you can get your spawns at snipe as opposed to at bottom blue every time. And then the last person can lift to try and get, after they back down window or anything, they could lift to try and get a nade on S2 to help out, or just put shots on whoever they see and probably die, but But that's basically what they said is all pushing bottom mid. So from a team that makes the legendary bracket pretty consistently, it's probably a pretty good strategy to go with. Go bottom mid is pretty much, as a team, you're going to go bottom mid and just get nades on open ramp and put shots on window so that they're not shooting you, and then hope to live long enough to do something.
All right, yeah, that sounds good with me. So we'll move right on then to question of the week. And the question of the week is when to stop planning a bomb and fight versus keep planning it and end up getting killed by the opposing team that's pushing in. I'll kind of start it off with the scenario where you're going to want to keep going is if you're kind of all alone. If you're by yourself and maybe your team is currently pushing up but they're not quite there yet to help you out, then you trying to get shots on two guys shooting you isn't going to do much because they're going to kill you pretty much instantly. So at that
But
point, I would worry more about the bomb time, and then hopefully as your team rolls in, they can get the kills, and then the bomb should hopefully just be a quick pickup and ready to go. And then the other situation where I would say you'd want to keep planting is if you know you have someone right behind you to finish it off. So I guess it's another scenario kind of where your teammates are sitting, but if you have someone else who's kind of right in their base and you're about to die, but you know you'll get it basically a half a second away, so all your teammate has to do is pick it up, it's another situation where I would want to just keep holding on to it and take the death.
yeah, I'm gonna disagree with you slightly. I agree with what you ended with, the beginning part when you're all alone. I think that's like in your team's pushing on. That's the time to me when you should be helping shoot, because you were saying you might not get a kill, but if you put two shots on two people or anything like that, or just like get a nade on and weaken people, that allows your teammates to clean people up easier, so they're not having to fight full shield people. Because if you just sit there and try and plant and you don't succeed and you only get it like halfway or something, then you haven't really done anything, because your teammates still have to kill everybody and then plant it, and more than likely the other team's going to have a chance to move that bomb, and then the time that you planted on it isn't going to do much. So I think that if you're alone is when you're going to want to drop it and try and stay alive. Maybe if we're talking shrine, then you're going to want to drop it and maybe like run and drop down the front of the base or go down on the main ramp and just stay alive and put a nade on the rock ramp where they're spawning or anything like that. So to me, if your teammate's not quite there, that's when you want to drop it and help fight for a little bit, then go back and do it. If you have a teammate near you, that's when I think you want to plant, because then they can fight and then potentially go in and finish it off if you die. So that's my opinion on it.
Yeah,
It's
I
a
guess.
little bit different on Warlock. I think if you're planting on Warlock, you plant until you die. There's almost no time when you drop it to shoot. I think on Warlock or Warlord, sorry, you just plant until you die. And if a bunch of nades are coming in, and then maybe you go around to the front of the thing or something. But I can't imagine a time when staying alive matters enough, like. Because you staying alive isn't really you're not gonna stay alive. You can stop planting, but the base is so small, nades are coming in, you're gonna die anyway. You might as well put more time on planting. Where I think in Shrine you have an opportunity to stay alive sometimes, which can help your team. Where in Warlord it's like the map's so small, you're already in the fight when you spawn anyway. So it's just like you might as well get as much time on the thing as you can.
Yeah, I guess for me, in my opinion, it comes down to if I can get the bomb to less than a second away before I die, that's what I want to do, regardless of where my team is. Assuming I have a team in the general area. If it's literally just me and my team's we're 3 dead and I'm the only one alive, then trying to plant the bomb and suicide is useless because I'm just going to get killed anyways. But if I know I can get the bomb less than a second away, that is my main objective, because if my team can then push in, get them down, and just get one person in to just grab it, then we should be able to get the plant.
No, I agree with you there. If you can get it very, very close, that's one thing. Like, say your teammate's not right there, but they're like in sniper hut and you're planting. And if you can get it very close, the sniper hut guy can put nades on the rock ramp and potentially weaken anybody or kill the people that are charging on the bomb. And then as he runs in, and then touch it and just get the plant real fast. But if the closest person is like on P bridge or something, then you're probably, you planting and getting it close isn't even going to do anything, because by the time he gets over there, he's probably not going to be able to kill everybody rushing towards it. Someone will get a chance to throw it off just a little bit, and then it'll start slowly losing its time. So if they're turret or like hut or something, then I think you have a legitimate chance to just like plant as much as you can. So I agree with you there. I guess it kind of depends on how close your teammates really are.
Yeah.
And if they have an opportunity to potentially finish off what you did. If they don't really have an opportunity to finish off what you did, I don't see any point in continuing to try and plant by yourself.
Yeah, like, I would agree with that.
Yeah. So that was basically our question of the week. Just want to talk about that a little bit and, you know, give our opinions on it.
Yeah, and I think that's gonna about do it for this cast. It's a little bit longer this week.
Yeah, we had a lot of things that we ended up talking about.
Yeah.
And I get a little wordy, I know, but
Well,
I have my
so
opinions.
that's all good. Can always cut it out. It's easier to cut
How
out
dare you
words than
cut?
to add
No,
them
you
in
didn't.
later on if need be.
Don't you dare edit me out. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's it for today, guys. You can check me out on Twitter at FadyFade. Post your questions there because that's what we want to talk about. Like, and we don't always have to. It doesn't have to be some in-depth thing. It can just be a little quick thing where we give 1-2 word answers type of deal, and we're more than happy to do that. If it's who's the best player on whatever roster, something like that. Just off the top of my head, we can talk about that for 30 seconds or something, and that's a great question. So, yeah, ask us that. That's me at Fady Fade. I just started streaming actually, and not I don't have it through my computer and overlays and everything set up, but I'm uploading it to YouTube and everything. So you can check me out. My Twitch is Fade_HCS. And right now, the only thing I've posted so far was actually a Smite gameplay from on Xbox. But I'll be putting Halo and Destiny and Smite and stuff up there as well. So you can check that out. And then Phelan.
Yeah. Obviously, if you're watching this, you know my Twitch. But for those of you that are listening in other places, twitch.tv/Phelan, Fail, the number 3N. Same thing on Twitter. My knee is finally starting to do a little bit better, so I'm going to try to get back into streaming. Last week I streamed Life is Strange Episode 3. I would say if you have not played the series, to get on that, to check it out. The game, there's not a lot that can bring me to tears per se, but my eyes definitely started watering when playing Episode 3. It started, it's a great series, and I highly recommend it to
I don't
anyone
tell me
who's...
about it. I don't actually know this. What type of game is it?
It's a very story-based driven game, similar to Telltale games, kind of.
Oh,
And
okay.
so it's all dialogue and a lot of choices,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. In this scenario, you play as like an 18-year-old high school girl. So like, first off, it doesn't sound like a very manly game, and it's basically about the drama
I'm
that
not
goes
judging
on.
you.
Yeah, it's about the drama that goes on, but to make a long story short, the main character figures out she has the butterfly effect powers, and she can rewind time.
Ooh,
And the
interesting.
game has turned into this whole story of there's a missing girl that you're trying to figure out or find, and you're kind of exploring your powers. You're having visions of some impending doom that might be coming, and you don't really know everything that's going on, and each episode's kind of just getting you bits and pieces. So I imagine it's gonna start ramping up real quick. There's supposed to be 5 episodes.
Yeah.
They've done 3.
Bring all the threads together
Yeah,
and
they're gonna
everything.
kind of bring everything together, but it's super entertaining. Kind of get you
I'll have
thinking.
to look into that.
Yeah.
That might be one my wife enjoys actually.
I would probably guess that she would.
She liked
I
the Telltale, so
Yeah, when I went to PAX East, my girlfriend at the time didn't want to have anything to do with the game, and I dragged her. That
you
doesn't sound
drugged
right.
her?
I brought her to
Date rape? What?
I brought her to one of the conferences that there was there about the game,
Mhm.
and
Like the little talk show thing.
yeah, where they were kind of talking about making it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And at the end, they showed some gameplay, and it caught her attention, and she really liked it. So I mean, it's very. I would say it's definitely very
We got
much
a question. How much? We got a question in the
gr-
Twitch chat. How much is the game?
I believe each episode is $5. You might be able to get all 5 for 20. I'm not something like
Okay.
that.
Yeah. So very similar to the Telltales and very
Yeah, I
reasonable.
think it's basically almost the same price setup. I bought it pretty much as soon as the series came out, so I don't
Yeah.
remember how much I paid.
Right.
Yeah, I would say do that.
Yeah. So
And I plan on streaming other things, getting back on track. I plan on streaming other things I recently got my phone hooked up to start streaming maybe some mobile games or something like that.
Oh,
And
crazy.
obviously Halo and things along those lines. With that being said, thank you everyone for stopping by in chat. Let's see, I know EXO was here,
Yeah, well done, steak.
Covert Snorlax, Well Done Steak. I
Yeah,
think
thank
those
you
are all the
guys.
people that talked. Yeah, thanks for stopping by and chatting. We always appreciate it. If you have any questions that you want to send us or any feedback, anything along those lines, 4shotpodcast@gmail.com. That's 4 is in the number 4, shotpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you guys no matter what it is about.
Yeah, the last thing I guess and say we are planning to have a few more interviews coming up, so I'm gonna go ahead and post like before that actually happens on Twitter who it is so that you guys can submit your questions for them. So that way it's not just us asking the questions and it's you guys, so it is an interview for you by you to an extent. So yeah,
Yeah,
keep
and
a
we're
lookout for
also
that.
hoping to get maybe one of the guests actually on the show instead of
Hmm.
pre-recorded. So
Right, exactly. Yeah,
as
that's what I
people
mean.
roll in chat too, they can ask chat questions.
Hmm.
All
Yeah, so
right.
again, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by, guys. Make sure to follow us on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, if you're into that kind of thing. Pretty much anywhere's,
Oh, I'm into it.
pretty much anywhere's that this is available. Go ahead, follow, subscribe, whatever the proper method is for that given channel. We'd appreciate it. Leave feedback if you want. We like the feedback. It helps us improve as much as possible. So thanks for listening. We'll be back next week at 8:30 on Tuesday, back to a normal time. So please, if you enjoyed the live show, please stop by Tuesdays at 8:30 Eastern Time for next week's episode 10. Thanks for listening.